I never imagined a distress text in an elevator could lead to an unbelievable connection. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The moment I stood in that cramped elevator, my heart racing, palms slick with sweat. I was trapped. My phone buzzed angrily in my pocket. A distress message from my sister. A simple help, but it felt like a hammer hitting my chest. Why was she in trouble? The world outside moved on, as I felt time drag like molasses. There was an odd energy in the air. The fluorescent lights flickered ominously above me. The elevator creaked, as if it shared my anxiety. My shaking hands clenched the railing. Inside, I was chaos. Outside, I maintained a shaky facade, a smile that felt like glass, ready to shatter. Just then, the elevator lurched, a low groan echoing through the small space. And then it stopped, between floors. Stuck. I thought about my sister, about our childhood filled with whispers and secrets. She was my best friend, my anchor. Stay calm, I told myself, but my thoughts spiraled. I could hear the silence stretching in every crevice, a haunting reminder that I was alone. Buried under the weight of unknowing, I felt the tightness in my chest. Then, suddenly, my phone vibrated again. The screen lit up with another message. Without even thinking, I reached for it. A text from a number I didn't recognize. I can help. My heart skipped. Who was this? As my eyes darted around the dim space, the edges of the walls seemed to close in. There was something eerie about the way the stranger reached out, suspending me in a web of curiosity and dread. Distant voices floated through the elevator doors, muffled sounds that felt both far away and eerily close. I pressed my back against the wall, took a trembling breath, and typed back, "Who are you?" Anxiety flooded me, but I needed answers. I glanced at the flickering light, feeling that strange energy pulsing like a heartbeat. The reply came quick. "I know what's happened, and I know where she is." My breath hitched. A cold wave of fear washed over me. How did they know? Was this a game? A trap? Everything turned thick with tension. I threw a glance at the empty digital display. One floor away from my sister, and I might be losing her. My mind raced as the silence tightened around me, and I couldn't help but wonder who was on the other side. And why did they seem to care? Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Time stood still, even as my heart raced. Clutching my phone tight in my palm, the weight of the stranger's message pressed down on me. My breath quickened. It was as if the walls of the elevator were closing in. I know what's happened, and I know where she is. Each word echoed like a chapter one hadn't read yet but desperately needed to. I needed to think. They could be lying, or worse, a part of whatever nightmare was unraveling around my sister. But in the shadow of uncertainty, hope glimmered like a distant star. I typed quickly, my fingers trembling over the glass. "Where is she?" Sounds of voices outside faded as I focused on the screen, aware that I might not have much longer to act. The reply was immediate. "At the old warehouse. They took her." My breath caught. The warehouse, a place etched deep in my childhood memories, a labyrinth of secrets and whispers. I recalled the tales we spun about it being haunted, and now, it felt like one of those tales was coming true. I fumbled for a way to digest this new reality. "Who are you?" My fingers hesitated before pressing send. Seconds felt like hours as I waited, glancing at the elevator doors as if they would magically swing open. My heart thumped in answer to the rising tension, each pulse echoing doubts in my mind. "Someone who can help you." Their response was vague. A thin line of trust stretched so thin it could snap with the slightest breeze. Before I could reply, the adversarial hum of the elevator interrupted me. The lights flickered again and the space seemed to thrum with an electric pulse. With a jolt, the elevator lurched back into motion. I braced myself, a surge of adrenaline coursing through my veins as the doors finally opened. I stumbled out into the hallway, half expecting to see my sister waiting there, waiting to embrace me. Instead, all I was greeted with was muted panic, the hustle of the building staff heading in every direction. My mind flooded with the image of her smiling face, tinged with the fear that something dark had happened. The weight of what the stranger had said weighed heavily on my chest. "Excuse me," I called out, trying to latch on to anyone who looked like they might know something. A woman, mid-30s with kind eyes, paused and turned to me. "What's wrong?" "My sister's in trouble. I need to find her." I could hear the desperation in my voice and loathed every tremble of it. "I might know someone who can help," she said softly. "I work at the community center nearby. There's a guy named Leo. You'd be surprised what he knows about the neighborhood." Hope flickered, even as skepticism held my heart in a vice. "Do you think he can really help?" "Sometimes you just have to trust that the universe sends you what you need." The woman offered a reassuring smile, and for the briefest moment, I felt a thin thread of connection. She placed her hand on my shoulder and squeezed gently. "Let's go." As we walked, thoughts of the old warehouse danced in my mind. What could they want with her? Sudden flashes of childhood moments sparked and faded the games we played, the secrets we shared now so far removed from this grim reality. Pulling up to the community center, hope mingled with anxiety. Questions bubbled and swirled. Would Leo have answers? The door creaked open and the warmth of the inside enveloped me, but the weight of the outside world felt heavy still, like a storm cloud hanging right above my head. As we crossed into the bustling hall, I spotted a man hunched over a table cluttered with papers and erratic sketches. His hands moved swiftly, an artist lost in a world of chaos. I approached him, my heart in my throat. "Are you Leo?" He looked up, piercing green eyes meeting mine. "What do you need?" The words caught in my throat, suddenly fragile. Before I could respond, my phone vibrated fiercely again, my heart leaping as I recognized the number the stranger from the elevator. Biting my lip, I opened the message, only to be struck by the horror of what it said. "You're running out of time. They're not going to keep her forever." The world around me blurred, the buzz of the community center drowned out by the roaring thoughts in my mind. My sister needed me. Whatever it was that lay ahead, I had to confront it all. In that moment I understood. The stakes were higher than any game we'd played before. The shadow of fear stretched long over us, and just as I took a step forward into the unknown, I heard a chilling voice echo behind me from the door. "You're too late." I turned, spine chilled, my breath lodged in my throat, unable to escape the tide of dread drowning my hopes. The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. "You're too late." The voice echoed around me like a bell tolling, beckoning my worst fears to the surface. I spun around, not prepared to find the source of the voice, and standing in the doorway was a figure wrapped in shadow, an aura of quiet menace that seemed to pulse from their very being. "Who are you?" I demanded, trying to push the quiver from my voice, but it betrayed me. The figure stepped into the light, revealing a face I recognized. It was someone from school. Jason, the quiet kid who had always lived on the fringes of our social circles. I had never thought much of him back then, but now, the glint in his eyes made them appear almost feral. "I was hoping we'd meet again," he said, a hint of something dark and twisted lurking beneath his words. "You've stirred up a lot of trouble by looking for your sister." "Where is she?" I pressed, the heat of desperation rising within me. Conversations around the community center became a dull roar, a distant reminder of my surroundings as I fought to keep my focus on him. "Oh, she's quite safe for now," Jason replied, a mocking smirk spreading across his face. "But the longer you take, the more unpredictable things become." There was a sick thrill in his tone, as if he were enjoying the torment unfolding before me. "Help me," I all but shouted, my heart pounding. "If you know anything, you need to tell me." He leaned in slightly, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "How disappointing that you've chosen to beg. I thought you'd be more like your sister. Always a fighter." A knife twisted in my gut at the thought of my sister in danger, not just because of her circumstances, but because she drew the ire of someone like Jason. Before I could articulate my next thought, Leo, with his unyielding green eyes, stepped between us, breaking the tension. Back away from her, Jason Dada, the neighborhood savior, Jason retorted, his casual tone not matching the audacity of his gaze. You think you can protect her? The truth is, you're both playing a dangerous game and you might already be outmatched. Enough, Leo said firmly, his voice carrying authority. What do you want? Jason shrugged, the epitome of nonchalance. Just wanting to watch the fun unfold. I'm not here to hurt her, yet. He glanced at me, an unsettling glint in his eyes. Keep searching. He'll be watching with that. He stepped back into the shadows of the doorway, disappearing with the same eerie fluidity he had arrived with. My heart pounded in a symphony of fear, confusion, and inexplicable anger. Do you know him? I asked Leo, anxiety clawing at my throat. I've heard his name here and there, Leo admitted, his brow furrowed as if considering the weight of our situation. He's not someone to take lightly. He's connected to some dangerous circles. Each word sank deeper into my bones, an icy realization that I was entangled in something much darker than I had imagined. I have to find my sister before he does something. Leo nodded, determination solidifying his features. We can't waste any more time. Let's head to the warehouse. The drive was a blur of anxious thoughts, each passing moment pressing down on me as if tethered by an invisible weight. The car's ambient hum felt like a muted soundtrack to a race against time, the ticking clock echoing louder with every heartbeat as we approached the decrepit structure. A childhood playground turned into a scene from a nightmare. Waves of memories washed over me. I tried to shake them off, dragging myself back into the present. This building had been a symbol of our youth, the place where laughter lived. Now it loomed ominously against the twilight sky, the very air thick with despair. We need to be careful, Leo warned, parking a little distance from the entrance. If Jason is involved, we don't know what's waiting for us inside. Everything within me screamed to push forward, to run straight through the doors and demand the return of my sister. But part of me felt like a candle flickering in the wind, susceptible, vulnerable. I grasped Leo's arm tightly, the contact, grounding me amid turbulent thoughts. Just as he opened the door, a frantic voice broke through the silence, a sound both familiar and foreign. Help! Someone please! I rushed through the threshold, panic driving my heart like a hammer, fear melding with flickering remnants of hope. Sophie? I shouted into the vast emptiness of the warehouse, echoing against the damp and rusted metal. Then came a sound I had never expected, laughter. Cold, sinister, echoing from somewhere deeper within. I've been waiting for you. A voice taunted from the shadows. It was unmistakable. Jason, I called out, heart racing, realizing that the stakes were no longer just my sister's life. They had turned into a deadly game with relentless players, a darkness spilling over into every corner. Suddenly, from the darkness, Sophie's face emerged, but it was twisted, foreign in its fear. No, she cried, face damp with tears, lips trembling as she reached toward me. Get back! Jason shouted from behind her, wielding a cold glint of something metallic in his hand. Time stood still again, a shattered mirror reflecting our realities as I faced a chilling truth. I had come too late, and this time, I was the one who had crossed into the haunted realm of danger. Heart racing, I felt the ground beneath me shift, the world narrowing to the sight of Sophie, fragile like a delicate flower caught in a storm, reaching out through the haze of chaos. Stop! I screamed, every fiber of my being imploring Jason not to make that fateful decision. But before I could process more, Leo lunged forward, urgency propelling him into action. Let her go, Jason! He shouted, trying to intervene with a protective fury. Jason, however, only laughed, malicious delight dancing in his eyes. That I think not. He replied, brandishing the knife with a flourish. You see, I'm not here only to watch this unfold. I'm here to make a statement. Sophie flinched at the edge of the shadows, terror radiating from her. No, please, she begged, her voice quivering. Just let us go. The whirling chaos in my mind made it hard to think straight. I had no clear plan, no surety that our next movements would lead to safety. But I couldn't let that stop me. "What do you want, Jason?" I begged, desperately trying to appeal to whatever humanity might flicker within him. "This isn't you." His laughter echoed through the metal of the warehouse like a haunting melody. "Oh, but it is. The puppet show must go on, and who better to play the part than the siblings who thought they could outwit fate?" Heart pounding, I took a step closer, determined to reach him, to peel back the overture of madness crackling around us. "You don't have to hurt anyone. You're better than this." "Better?" Jason's smirk fell as he narrowed his gaze, the darkness within him revealing a depth of pain I hadn't anticipated. "Better is for those who are afraid to embrace the truth. You played your part in abandoning her, in leaving her behind. You didn't come looking for her until it was too late." I couldn't deny the truth of his words, each one striking me like a physical blow. Memories flooded back the times I had chosen the comforts of friendship and school life over focusing on Sophie's quiet battles. I couldn't imagine the depths of her loneliness or the darkness she had waded through. "I know I messed up, but let me make it right," I shouted, desperate to bridge this chasm, trying to reach the boy I never really knew. For the briefest moment, hesitation flickered in Jason's expression. However, it was quickly replaced by cold calculation, the knife glinting ominously in the low light. "Make it right? You're going to need to prove it." Before I could respond, Sophie choked back a sob. "Please, just stop. I'm tired, I'm so tired," she cried, every word seemingly pulling the threads of our fate tighter. Then something shifted inside the warehouse. A clatter from the back echoed throughout, almost serene amidst the chaotic energy swelling around us. We all turned, minds racing. Was it help? The possibility of rescue ignited a flicker of hope but quickly extinguished under the oppressive fear. "Stay close," Leo urged, his keen eyes scanning the shadows like a hawk. Just as we were distracted, Jason took a menacing step towards Sophie. "Careful now," he warned, his voice heavy with menace. "One wrong move and it'll make you regret ever coming here. Just let her go." "She's done nothing," I cried, struggling to keep my voice firm. With renewed desperation, Leo took another step closer. "Let's not do anything we'll regret, Jason. You have the power to walk away from this." "Walk away?" Jason's eyes flared with an unsettling enthusiasm. Where would the fun be in that? And just then, the noise grew louder, heavy footsteps echoing against the cold steel floor. My jeans clung to my legs as fear washed through me. I felt the room constrict, and in the shadows near the far wall, a figure finally came forth. My blood ran cold with realization. "Jason, I think the game is about to change," the figure said, stepping into the dim light, revealing a face I both feared and recognized. It was Mia, an ally turned adversary, drawn from the very depths of my past. "What are you doing here?" I breathed, panic breaking through. She turned her piercing gaze toward me, a cryptic smile playing on her lips. "You've made more noise than I anticipated. But now it's time to see just how deep this rabbit hole goes." "Don't you dare touch her, Mia," Leo warned, trying to step in front of me and Sophie. Her laughter drowned my worry. "All we've done is play favorites. And darling," she said, tilting her head, "you both seem like quite the prize players." And with that, the world around us spiraled into a new chaos, each person in that warehouse now entangled in a web larger than any of us could fathom. I felt Sophie grip my hand tightly, her courage blazing despite the shadows clinging to our fate. I took a breath, the promise of survival lingering between us. Yet, in that moment of deepened desperation, I couldn't help but wonder if we would ever escape this nightmare or if it would claim us, entwining our lives with secrets we weren't prepared to uncover. As Mia stepped through the shadows, the air grew heavier, thick with tension. The warehouse, once a battleground between siblings, transformed into a space of uncertain alliances. Every breath I took felt laden with urgency, a whisper amplifying my dread. "We don't need to escalate this," Leo urged again, maintaining a protective stance in front of Sophie and me. "Whatever game you're playing, we won't be part of it." Mia laughed softly, almost mockingly, her entertainment evident. "Oh, but you already are. The lines have been drawn, so tell me, do you want to play for their lives or your own?" Jason's gaze shifted, a flicker of uncertainty sparking. "What do you mean, Mia?" Her smile widened, revealing too many secrets. "You're not the only one with grievances here, Jason. You've kept your rage bottled up for far too long. But I can show you how to unleash Itho to make them feel the way you felt. A hard truth was cast between us, thickening the air. I could barely sort through the swirling chaos in my mind. Jason wasn't just spouting venom. He was fueled by a past I now realized extended beyond our shared childhood. For a moment, he looked almost vulnerable, as if searching for validation in Mia's words. "Enough!" I shouted, breaking the charisma of dread that enveloped us. "We all feel pain, but that's not an excuse to hurt others. It's time to break the cycle." Sophie squeezed my hand tighter. Her breath was shaky, but amidst the storm, I felt the warmth of her determination. "We can help you, Jason," she said, her voice soft yet resilient. "We can make things right together, I promise." Jason's grip on the knife wavered, and for a second, I thought we might have pierced the cloud of anger encasing him. But Mia stepped forward, venom in her words. "Sweetheart, don't you see? They'll lie to you. They'll manipulate your pain just like they did before. Trust no one now." I yelled back, feeling the swell of old protectiveness rise within me. "You're just trying to insidiously sow doubt. Don't listen to her, Jason. She's using you." With a growl of frustration, Jason took a determined step back from Sophie, clearly wrestling with his emotions while wrestling still deeper demons. "This isn't about trust. This is about power. And I finally have it." "What power?" Leo shouted, anger sparking in his tone. "Only pain can come from this." The laughter ceased for a moment, and in its place, an eerie silence held the room hostage. Mia watched the exchange with delight, her twisted joy as palpable as the fear clinging to our hearts. "This is the moment, Jason. Seize it. Show them what you're made of." With each word that tumbled from her lips, the room felt less like a battleground and more like a twisted theater. A stage set for a performance we never intended to star in. Sophie's gaze darted between Jason and Mia, and I could see the storm of emotions coursing through her veins: fear, hope, and above all, a plea for humanity. Then, in an unexpected twist, as the shadows wrapped tighter around us, a loud crash echoed from above, cutting through the hot air, a sound both liberating and alarming. Dust fluttered from the ceiling, and in that blink of uncertainty, another figure tumbled into our chaotic scene. A mysterious silhouette, cloaked and ready, stood outlined against the fading light. "You've played long enough, Mia." The voice was firm, unmistakably familiar, sending shockwaves of recognition through me, who I started, but Mia interrupted with a manic grin, relishing the rising tension like a maestro at the crescendo of an opera. Did you think you could bring more players to the table? Welcome back, dear friend, we were just getting started." Panic rose as Leo realized who it was, the ally I thought we had lost. But as the figure stepped into the dim light, a shocking truth washed over me. "Vivian?" I couldn't mask the shock in my voice. My heart raced. "What are you doing here? You shouldn't have come back." "Saving you, it seems," she said, her eyes scanning the room, anger and determination flaring as she focused on Mia. "We're done letting you control our fate." With accusations flinging through the air, like arrows, I felt the fragile thread of hope weave through the fray, the possibility that we were not alone. Yet, the very uncertainty of whether this reunion was a stroke of fortune or folly pressed down upon my chest like a weight. "Now, what do we do?" Sophie whispered, her fear sharpening before anyone could respond. A loud thud reverberated against the main doors of the warehouse, and the sound of heavy footsteps rushed towards us, a different kind of arrival. My heart dropped. We were out of time. "Mia, we need to leave." Jason's voice trembled now with urgency, but a flicker of defiance danced in his eyes. The space was unraveling, and we were caught in its swift current, trapped by the consequences of every choice that had led us to this moment. I held on to Sophie, grasping her warmth, recognizing that no matter the outcome, We were igniting the flames of a battle that would seal our fates forever, or perhaps offer a sliver of redemption. And just when hope seemed within reach, I sensed the weight of a choice looming ahead. Life or death, truth or treachery, the chance of freedom hanging by the narrowest of threads. My heart sank, caught in a tempest of emotion, as we braced ourselves for whatever unspeakable challenge awaited us next. As the heavy footsteps echoed, each step felt like a countdown to devastation. The weight in the air morphed into a palpable anxiety. Every breath I took became an effort against the suffocating fear. Outside, shadows loomed, allies or enemies. I couldn't tell anymore. Everyone, stay close, Vivian commanded, instinctively positioning herself near us, her presence anchoring me. Leo's grip steadied around Sophie and me, protective and fierce, yet I could feel his unease vibrating through his palm. Mia smirked, her confidence like a blade drawn against the unsteady hearts surrounding her. "Oh, the cavalry arrives," she mocked, relishing this moment of distraction. "But tell me, what can they possibly bring that's better than the chaos I have prepared for you?" Jason shifted, his internal battle raging just beneath the surface, yet an entirely different determination sparked within him now, perhaps ignited by Vivian's arrival. "Mia, you've lost. This nightmare ends here," he declared, his voice slicing through the tension, though he glanced uncertainly at Vivian. Her expression softened, a flicker of pride dancing behind her fierce exterior. "Together, Jason, we can dismantle this," she whispered, urging him to see the remnants of a brother still buried deep beneath the rubble of anger and revenge. For a moment, I saw a brief glimpse of the Jason I used to know, the one who would stand as a protector, not a destroyer. The fear gripping me loosened slightly as hope flickered like a candle within my heart. But before I could exhale, the imminent threat behind the door pushed through, more powerful than mere shadows. The door swung open violently, crashing against the wall, and an unfamiliar figure stormed in, cloaked in the fading light, forcing silence through sheer presence. The air seemed to thicken anew. "Step away from them, Mia," his deep voice commanded, booming like thunder in our small cosmos of confusion. "Milo?" I gasped, recognizing him as the once brave friend turned reluctant traitor. But now, his demeanor seemed altered, hardened by experiences that had changed him. His eyes held a fierce glint, devotion or desperation. "Don't play games." The tension between him and Mia crackled dangerously. "You think these toys," he gestured to us, "are yours to manipulate? Release them, now." Mia tilted her head, intrigued and amused, feigning neutrality while hiding the panic bubbling beneath. "And why would I do that? This performance is hardly finished." Vivian stepped forward, unsheathing her own resolve. "Because it won't end well for you. This is not just about yourself anymore. It's about their lives, your brother's life." Milo's gaze snapped to Jason, a recognition sparking between thema connections strained yet undeniable. "You don't have to do this, Jason. This isn't the end you want," he implored, as if trying to break the bind that eclipsed their childhood bond. "Enough of this," Mia shouted, genuinely agitated now. "You think words will end me? You're all pathetic." The staggering truth hit me like a cold wave. This play we were caught in wasn't merely a contest between rage and redemption, it was us against her. But she could leverage our fears against us. She saw our vulnerabilities exposed. This revelation quenched my burgeoning hope, leaving fear in its wake. "Stay together," Leo urged, pulling Sophie and me in closer just as I sensed her panic returning, her heartbeat accelerating against mine like a frantic whisper. Faced with a trifecta of conflicting alliances, Vivian, Jason, and Milo against Mia, the room was electric with unsaid threats, longing, and the realization that regardless of the outcome, bonds would be tested, hearts shattered, perhaps forever altered. And then it happened, a moment impossible to prepare for, like a match striking against dry kindling. As Jason and Milo locked eyes, the air shifted, thickening in a heavy promise not yet formed, a breath before the storm. Can they really end this? I wondered, momentarily lost in that glimmer of hope contrasted with a veil of uncertainty. As Jason's fingers brushed against the knife's hilt, the crucial decision hanging visibly in the air, a question of loyalty of humanity in a world twined with hostility. In that moment, my heart lurched, violent and chaotic, as an unexpected crack of thunder echoed outside, mirroring the turmoil swirling between us. And just like that, amidst the noise and the chaos, a chilling realization sank into my goodest secret festering within me, waiting to rise. The moment Jason moved, propelled not by anger, but by the residual threads of brotherhood, the world teetered at the cusp of a pivotal decision. "This isn't over, Mia." "Not yet," he said slowly, each word soaked with meaning. But before any of us could act on that promise, the darkness returned, deeper and more consuming. I felt vertigo sweep through me, a disorienting awareness crashing down as what had been hidden started unraveling. And suddenly, as I braced for the unknown, the sound of another door slamming open resonated in the distance, shrouding us in fresh uncertainty, a cacophony of light and shadow spiraling toward us. I had no idea who or what would emerge from the darkness, but the air was pregnant with the promise that it would change everything we thought we knew. As the din of the newly opened door reverberated around us, time seemed to freeze. The threshold became a chasm, holding secrets and shadows that teased our fates. My heart raced with dread and anticipation as silhouettes began to emerge, the harsh light outlining figures I couldn't yet identify. "What now?" Sophie whispered, her voice quavering beside me. I squeezed her hand, desperate to be a source of strength even as unease consumed me. From the flickering shadows, a face became distinct, a gaunt, weary face framed by tangled hair. The person stepped into the dim light, revealing a striking resemblance to Jason, but older, weathered by storms we hadn't faced. "Jason," the stranger cried out, his voice tinged with an urgency that sent a twist of recognition through all of us. "Ezra?" Jason breathed, disbelief infusing his tone. "But how?" "I had to come," Ezra insisted, the trepidation in his expression demonstrating a desperation I had never seen on him before. His gaze swept over the tension hanging in the air. "I know what Mia is planning. It's bigger than any of us." "That's rich coming from you," Mia snapped, her self-assuredness faltering for the briefest moment. "You had your chance to make a choice, and you left." Ezra straightened, his chin lifting defiantly. "And I will take responsibility for that. But right now, we don't have time for enough." MIA's fury erupted, reminiscent of a raging storm, echoing off the walls and slashing through the thick tension that griped us all. "You think your past choices give you a say in this? You're just as weak as the others in this room." The fragile hope ignited by Ezra's arrival flickered. I turned towards Vivian, looking for reassurance, but her face mirrored the uncertainty I felt. "What do you mean there's more?" she pressed, confronting Ezra, urgent fear coiling in her tone. "Let me explain. Mia has been preparing more than just chaos. She's planning to unleash something. Something we can't contain," Ezra explained, his words painting the air with a haunting severity. "She's not acting alone. There are forces at play that we've only just begun to understand." A heavy silence fell among us, the weight of his revelation tilting everything I thought I knew on its axis. The air thickened, pregnant with unspoken fears and buried truths. My head spun as glimpses of possibilities unraveled before me, each one darker than the last. Ezra continued, "This isn't just about you all anymore. She's going to Mia will not lay a finger on anyone here." Jason shot back, finally shedding the hesitations that had bound him. "You're wrong, Ezra. I can beat her. We all can. Together." Ezra shook his head, frustration flooding his features. "You think this is just a fight? No, it's manipulation on a level you can't grasp yet. There are plans in motion, deeper connections to both of you than you realize." Jason hesitated, an inkling of doubt worming its way into his resolve. The reality of our situation felt like a dark fog pressing in around us. "Tell us what you mean," Vivian's voice broke the tension. "You can't just drop hints and expect us to go blindly into the dark." "Fine, but you have to believe me." Ezra looked around the room, his gaze settling momentarily on each of us before landing on Jason. "The truth is, Mia isn't just after revenge. She's been set up. She believed she was part of something greater, a plan to break the cycle of control that our enemy has. But it's gone wrong. She is as much a pawn as we are. The implications of his words cascaded into the atmosphere like a stone cast into still water. A tremor of disbelief crackled through the air. If Mia was merely a piece in a larger game, what did that make us? Mia's laughter broke the seriousness. You think you can sway me with lies? They'll show you just how much control I wield. I don't believe you, Ezra, Jason said, an edge of panic in his voice. You for once, Jason, listen, Ezra interrupted. She's not the villain she pretends to be. I've seen what's happening. I've been on the inside. They want you all to self-destruct. You're playing right into their hands. Milo, pressing back against the wall, his posture betraying turmoil, glanced back and forth between Jason and Ezra. What do we do? Stick together, Vivian said, the steadiness in her voice rising like a bomb against the encroaching dread. We focus on our strength. And what about Jason? Milo pressed, eyes darting to his brother. I have a choice to make. Jason faced Ezra, the inner conflict evident on his face. The brotherly bond they shared was fraught with layers of mistrust, but there were hints of old loyalty fighting to surface. What do you suggest? Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed outside like a gunshot in the night. The walls trembled, a low rumble following the sound, as though the world was threatening to collapse inward, and I felt an instinctual urge to protect Sophie. More of this? Mia spat, frustration morphing into something more dangerous. You think walls can hold me back? A shiver ran through me as I realized this suspenseful pause was the precursor to disaster. The energy shifted around us as if time itself held its breath. Ezra, snatching every ounce of courage he had left, stepped forward. We can either fight against each other or against the real enemy. It's time to decide where our loyalties lie, not just to each other, but to what we believe is right. Mia's expression twisted, a tempest of emotions flashing across her face. Don't speak to me of loyalty. You know nothing of my sacrifices or the game I've been forced to play. Before I could process her unraveling words, the ground trembled beneath us, an eerie sound vibrating through the floor. My instincts screamed that whatever Mia was digging her heels into was about to emerge, and we might not be ready to face it, shall we? She said, a sly smile creeping across her lips, and just like that, the storm unleashed itself upon us. The door behind us slammed shut, sealing our fate in darkness, with the echoes of ancient whispers starting to fill the air, a chorus of shadows, secrets, and a truth that no one was prepared to confront. With each heartbeat pounding in my ears, I realized something monumental was on the verge of revealing itself, threading its way into our entwined destinies. The darkness closed in around us like a thick fog, smothering the small spark of hope that had briefly ignited. My heart raced, fear coiling tighter within my chest with each passing second. The air felt charged, crackling with a terrifying anticipation that we couldn't escape. Jason, stay close, I urged, instinctively pulling Sophie towards him as Ezra's urgent warnings echoed in my mind. The shadows seemed to dance, shifting into forms that lurked at the edges of what we could see. I wished fervently for the bright light of understanding, yet all we had was the oppressive weight of uncertainty hanging over us. The loud bang resonated around us, and I flinched. Mia's laughter seemed to wrap around the echoes, sardonic and chilling. You soon will realize that my grasp can't be unshackled so easily. I've long danced in the shadows, relishing the ploys of power. You think you're strong? How quaint. We have to find a way out, Jason asserted, his voice steely despite the quaking environment. Ezra, you've been inside this for too long. What's the play now? Ezra's expression hardened. We have to prevent her from unleashing whatever she intends to. If we can find a way to neutralize her hold, we may have a chance. The unyielding darkness loomed, almost mocking us as I glanced back at Milo. His face was drawn tight, a reflection of the apprehension that plagued all of us. For the first time, the confrontation felt less like a chaotic storm and more like the chilling calm before an impending avalanche. A thought surfaced, unbidden. What if we were the ones being maneuvered into position for a larger game? Sophie, I began, but her shaky breath interrupted my train of thought. "I can't do this," she whispered, tears pooling in her eyes, her voice trembling. I'm scared that I squeezed her hand, murmuring soft reassurances even as my heart sank. "We're together, remember? Whatever happens, we won't lose each other." But just as I said those words, there was another loud crack, this time accompanied by a blinding flash of light slicing through the shadows. I squinted against the brilliance, trying to discern whether our imminent danger would take form, or if it was merely an illusion conjured by the flickering light. "Cover your eyes," Jason howled. Amidst the chaos, I threw my arms around Sophie, shielding her from the unwelcome brightness, my heart thudding against the silence of fear. But the flash turned into something marine illumination that felt almost organic, pulsating as if it held a life of its own. As the light illuminated the room, filling the spaces previously thick with shadows, I caught sight of Mia, her fury transmuted to an unsettling fascination as she stared at whatever was unfolding before us. "What is happening?" Vivian shouted over the chaos, casting a glance toward the shifting light that now seemed to swirl like smoke, attempting to shape itself into something tangible. Ezra looked torn, a mix of dread and intrigue fighting for space across his features. This isn't part of her original plan." The light began to coalesce, taking form as images flickered and twisted like shrouded memories. I could hardly make sense of it all, visions overlapping, blending fragments of lives that pulsed with raw emotion. Each glimpse felt intimate yet agonizingly distant, threads of pain and sorrow twisting around us. It was a tapestry of anguish that beckoned our attention. The moment was dizzying, yet there was something strangely comforting amidst the chaos. A connection forged through understanding the pain that had woven us together against the world's relentless hold. I felt my heart thrum with empathy, not just for the faces I saw emerge, but for every one of us gripped in the shadowy spiral. Then, just as swiftly as it had started, the light flickered and dimmed, leaving us breathless and a little dazed. I staggered back, catching a glimpse of Sophie looking pale but remarkably determined. "It showed us something," she murmured, her voice a mere thread amidst the echoes. "Did you see?" Ezra stepped forward, eyes reflecting the afterglow of the light. Was that a vision of the past, or a warning for the future? "It was both," I whispered, barely above a breath. "Something is connecting us all, even Mia. We only have to trust one another." But the moment was interrupted as Mia let out a roar of frustration, her face contorting like a tempest. "You dare toy with ancient energies? You're all just lost children playing pretend." In that moment of vulnerability, her anger laid bare an underbelly of fear, like a gaping wound. It was clear she was just as bewildered by the revelations as we were. But before I could voice my thoughts, the ground shook violently again, sending us sprawling. The metallic taste of blood filled my mouth as I bit my lip in an attempt to steady myself. Shards of rock rained down around us, dust and debris carrying whiffs of something acrid. This time we weren't just up against Mia. The very foundation of our world seemed ready to buckle. "This isn't over," she screeched, the heat of her rage igniting against the fracturing walls. "You think this is merely chaos? I'm merely bringing forth what has been forgotten." Caught in the whim of her madness and blinded by fear, I grasped Jason's arm, pulling him to his feet. A feral determination glimmered in his eyes. I could see the resolve forming, but uncertainty still twisted within. "We have to do this together," I forced out, reaching past my own reservations, embers of strength igniting just a bit more, for the light against the darkness. And as the dust settled around us, drawing thick shrouds around the haunted fragments of our shared fate, something within me began to ignite a sparkling hope. But when Jason's gaze locked onto mine, silence stretched taut between us, echoing the unsaid tension that clung to our fates. Just then, the walls around us started to tremble deeper, the resonance vibrating through our bones. Maybe she wasn't the only one affected by this chaos. Maybe it was us. Perhaps we held the threads of a much larger story. But just as that thought flickered to life, there was a sudden, profound sound, a low growl that stomped through the rubble like an unexpected arrival. A rippling shadow emerged from the darkness, and a sense of impending doom settled around us all. "Get ready," Jason warned, bracing himself for whatever was to come. Suddenly, it hit me. In the depths of our shared struggles, we had only begun to grasp the far-reaching implications of what lay ahead. As the tension coiled tighter and uncertainty brewed, we stood together in the threshold of the unknown, holding our breath as a terrifying revelation loomed just out of sight. The tension in the air shifted again, almost as if the walls themselves were aware of the specter looming just beyond our reach. I felt a cold sweat break out across my forehead as the growl reverberated off the battered walls, each echo crawling into my ears like a premonition, a ghostly whisper warning us of what lay in the shadows. "Stay together," Jason commanded, his voice a steady anchor amidst the gathering storm. I glanced at Sophie, whose eyes flared wide with fear, but it wasn't just fear. I could see something more within her. A determination sparked by the flame of our shared peril. The shadow shifted once more, the edges of its form writhing like a living entity. I could almost feel its breath, hot and pungent like sulfur, laden with the weight of ages past. I couldn't shake the feeling that this entity was linked to mine, an extension of her fury, or perhaps a manifestation of the chaos she had conjured. "What is that?" Milo whispered, panic threading his voice as he stepped back, almost falling over a jagged rock. Instinctively, I reached out and steadied him. "There's a part of her, I think," I murmured, summoning what courage I could. "A culmination of her darkness, something drawn from her manipulation." Ezra cursed under his breath, his gaze locked on the advancing shadow. "We need to get to the heart of this. Whatever we saw in the light, it was a key. We have to unravel it if we stand a chance." The growl intensified, morphing into a chorus of agonized wails that clawed at the edges of my sanity. I gripped Sophie's hand tighter, drawing upon the warmth and familiarity of her steady heartbeat as we prepared to confront the darkness together. "Trust me," I whispered to her, though I was unsure if I was comforting her or myself. As the shape solidified, I could see tendrils lashing out, coiling and uncurling like serpents seeking their prey. Suddenly, just as despair threatened to wrap around me, a glimmer caught my eye, broken shards of the light that had illuminated our past moments. They flickered among the rubble, shimmering like stars caught in a storm, no longer purely a reminder of our anguish but a fragmented beacon of hope against something infinitely darker. "Look," I shouted, pointing toward the light, while confusion danced in the depths of our eyes. "We can harness that, if we can get to it enough." MIA's voice pierced the chaos, filled with venomous rage. As if responding to her command, the shadow lunged, a dark rush consuming air as chaos erupted around us. "You think your piddling hopes can shield you from the inevitable? I've seen the shadows wrapped around your hearts, the pain that binds you. I know you. You feel the weight of the world closing in, and yet you dare defy me." Jason met my gaze, grounding me with unspoken understanding. "We can't let her win. Remember what we saw before. There's something in our pain we need to embrace. It's our strength." Just then, before I could respond, a brilliant arc of light shot through the tempest, illuminating the cavern with a ferocity I had never witnessed. The ground quaked beneath us even more violently, like a warning signal that rattled the very core of our beings. The shadow hesitated, wary of the rising luminescence that pushed against the damp veil of despair. Using the moment, Ezra stepped forward, fear morphing into determination. "If we harness this light together, we can cast her out. We need to reflect to channel our shared pain and rage against her darkness." I felt the spark of solidarity ignite within each of us, pooling our wounds, fears, and anger. Even Milo, who had started this journey as an outsider, was no longer just a frightened boy. He was part of this tapestry woven from the fibers of our shared struggles. "We need to scream it out. We're not lost. We're alive," I echoed, my spirit awakening as I raised my voice with the others. "We're here, not just surviving, but fighting back." In unison, our voices soared, resonating through the cavern, painting the air with our defiance. The pulsating light seemed to swell at our cries, reacting to the raw energy we offered. Each heartbeat, each breath revived the memory of warmth intermingled with our connected pain, forming a shield against the dark creature threatening to pull us under. Mia shrieked, the echoes of her fury intertwining with the melodic rise of our collective chant. The ground underneath bucked, but we stood firm, pushing against the palpable heaviness of despair. The shadow surged forward again, but now diminished, hesitant to consume the essence we were assembling, the light starting to weave itself into patterns of resilience around us. Suddenly, a shriek cut through the air, this time not from Mia but from the wailing shadow itself as it twisted in agony. It was losing its grip, the barrier between us and our freedom fracturing with every breath. But just as I began to feel the thrill of overcoming surge in my veins, an ear-splitting crack reverberated through the air, a familiar sound, like the breaking of glass. My heart skipped a beat as I looked around, panic rising anew. What if, in our determination to push back, we inadvertently unleashed something even more terrifying? The fractured shadows congealed, swirling viciously as if alive, and I feared it was no longer within our control. We have to, I began, but my voice faltered as a chilling realization washed over me. The fragmented darkness erupted, spilling forth in a hideous brilliance, wrapping around me with suffocating intensity. I felt my feet lift from the ground, my breath stolen as the edge of consciousness began to fade. Mia! I screamed, my outburst swallowed by the cacophony of growing chaos. If she was the one connected to the heart of the shadow, would we come to face our deepest struggles? Or would the darkness consume us whole? With everything on the precipice, I clutched Sophie's hand, praying it wouldn't slip away as dread clawed at my chest. Just then, a whisper broke through the haze, wrapping around me like a lifeline, a voice that chilled me to my core, yet felt hauntingly familiar. Are you ready for what you've awakened? The abyss opened, and with it came the uncertainty of everything we once believed. And, unable to answer, we all stood on the edge, waiting to see what darkness truly lay ahead. Suddenly, panic surged through me as the disembodied whisper echoed again, a chilling invitation that hung in the air like a thick fog. Are you ready for what you've awakened? I felt momentum shift around us. I glanced at Sophie, her eyes wide and terrified, but there was also a flicker of defiance shining from within her. Resistance. It sparked something in me. This was not the end but a chance for a new beginning. Mia, I shouted, channeling every ounce of panic into courage. This isn't your fate to dictate. You're not alone in this struggle. Mia's eyes fluttered, briefly lit with confusion, and within that moment, I took a step toward her, feeling the energy between us crackle with the intensity of our entwined destinies. You're not just pain. You're buried beneath it. We can rise together or we can drown in anger. Choose. For what felt like an eternity, the air was thick with tension. The dark shadow trembled, reacting to the raw feelings coursing through me. I felt Jason's hand clench around mine, an unbreakable bond forming a protective circle around Sophie, Milo, and Vivian. We were more than just combatants, we were allies against a common enemy formed from the shadows of our histories. But Mia's response came in the form of a snarl, her dark energy firmer than before. You think your words resonate? This power runs deeper than you imagine. And just like that, she lunged forward, her shadow materializing into a swirling mass of despair. Together we can break this power, Ezra shouted, fighting against the tumbling darkness and turning toward all of us. Focus on your shared pain but also on the flickers of hope. Use it. Let's compendium our light. As we concentrated on that flickering flame of hope, soft golden trails began to spawn from our connection, intertwining into a radiant web that glimmered amidst the relentless dark. Memories flooded back, days of laughter, shared vulnerabilities, moments where our relationships had either bloomed or cracked under pressure. And in those memories, I could see them all. The time Jason rushed me to hospital when I twisted my ankle, Sophie helping me navigate through the tough moments of teenage despair, Milo's shy smile in the quiet moments we embraced vulnerability, and Vivian's courage when she chose to return. We found strength not only in the mere act of facing danger, but in understanding and forgiving our collective past as our voices echoed. Intoning a mantra of resilience and unity, I felt that light expand, pushing against the shadows, unearthing more of what Mia was hiding. This light was not just a force against darkness. It was a weapon forged from forgiveness, acceptance, and shared pain. It illuminated the jagged edges of our childhood, the wounds that created our fears. It wove the threads of sorrow into a fabric of strength. The shadows recoiled fiery, revealing images locked within the struggles Mia had faced, the pain that had birthed her ambitions, and finally, the raw vulnerability that lay beneath the hardened mask. I felt compassion washing over me, even as fear clawed at me to retreat. Mia, we all have scars. I cried through the tempest, my voice breaking as I fought against the chaos. We've hurt and been hurt, but turning to darkness won't heal us. And in that instant a shift occurred. Her eyes widened, recognition mingled with fury, and for a moment, I felt her waver. The rise of our combined light began to unveil a truth deeper than vengeance. It offered acceptance of ourselves, of each other. Mia screamed, yet frantically it grew louder, as if we were catching her in a web she could not untangle. You think you can undo me? Suddenly, the dark mass rumbled and clashed against our light, but rather than extinguishing it, it transformed. The dark began to contract, shrinking toward Mia, exposing her raw, trembling form, as if our light were peeling back the layers of her once imposing presence. Her once fierce determination warped into confusion, vulnerability. The breath left my lungs, coiling tightly around my heart. Mia, you don't have to fight this alone. I cried again, feeling our voices entwined, echoing through the chaos. You can join us. Become something new. You're more than this pain. Then, a moment I didn't expect flickered to life. In the center of the chaos, tears began to form in Mia's eyes, softening the resoluteness I had once feared. What have I done? Her whisper cut through the noise, laced with pain and the warmth of lost years. Mia, it's okay. Jason stepped forward, a gesture of understanding instead of hostility. We've all made mistakes. This world doesn't have to end in darkness. Just then, as the last remnants of her darkness fell away, I watched as Mia began to shift. The dark remnants that had once consumed her transformed, giving rise to light that began to untwist itself. I felt a rush of emotion as we all reached forward, planting seeds of unity amidst the tumult. I've spent my life entrapped by the narrative I was told. Mia's voice wavered, and the shadows that hung heavy around her flickered. Retreating, a silent understanding passed through all of us, thick and unyielding, dividing the darkness from the light. In that sacred space, the dance between acceptance and pain wove a new tapestry, one threaded with forgiveness and bravery, every shared moment reaffirming our rights to heal and feel. Suddenly, a piercing howl echoed, resonating with the light as the shadows engulfed Mia once more in a fight against her own demons. Yet, the anguish that had once fueled that fight transformed into something more, a ripple of hope breaking through the chains she had wrapped around herself. As the tiny light flickered, it became clear. This fight was not merely against the darkness but for each other, for our battles and scars as catalysts for learning and growth. In this luminous moment, understanding transcended fear, tamed the shadows, and illuminated the truth. Mia, together, we cried in unison as a wave of unwavering light surged through the air, enveloping us in a celestial embrace, igniting every pang of hope that lay dormant for so long. With the final vehement push, the shadows imploded around us, a whirlpool of transformation cascading as the darkness relinquished its hold. And then, the light erupted into a magnificent brilliance, exploding through every crack and opening like dawn, ushering in a brand new day. As the pulsating glow receded, revealing the wreckage left in the aftermath, I blinked in astonishment. We stood there together, bruised but unbroken, the remnants of Mia's turmoil evaporating into the ether. Before we could comprehend the enormity of our victory, we had forged an alliance one can only dream about, a tapestry woven of vulnerability, forgiveness, and tenacity. Mia, standing on the other side of our bond, was no longer a shadow to fear but a kindred spirit we had never known could exist. We moved forward together now. No more shadows between us, I uttered softly, taking a tentative step toward her, and as the warmth of her gaze met mine, I felt a hope bloom in me, realizing how beautiful. It was to forge a path over the ruins of our past. In that moment, I understood that healing wasn't linear. It twisted through darkness and light, despair and hope, reflecting our humanity. With each breath, we would step into this new life together, not as strangers bound by the past but as allies embracing the future. And as I looked at each of their faces, Jason, Sophie, Milo, Vivian, and yes, even me, or I realized that we had weathered the storm. We stood united not just by stitched wounds but by unmasking the rawness of our shared imperfections. Together, I whispered, meaning it more than ever as warmth enveloped the room like a beloved cloak, pushing back against the shadows. And somewhere, deep within me, a quiet vow took root. From here on out, we would face our truths together, mending the wounds of our hearts with every step we took toward the light. With that, I felt the universe echoing back the acknowledgement our journey had not come to an end. A new one had just begun. Just as we walked forward, I could almost hear the distant chime of resilience. This will be the last chapter of our old story, but not the end of our journey. Somewhere deep within me, I felt it resonate, a new beginning ignited within the embers of strength. As I took a final breath, each breath promising this, to face the light, to embrace our truth. And with one last note of finality, I knew in that instant, finally at peace, that we were ready to find hope in our brokenness, together.